Welcome back to my Final Fantasy XIV drama series. Today's drama story is about how I became a homewrecker. If you enjoy these kinds of videos, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. Hi Pathra! I am relatively a new subscriber, but I absolutely love your storytelling videos on Final Fantasy XIV. It's become routine for me to tune into a video of yours as I plow through my daily work. Thank you for continuing to entertain so many people like me and for providing an avenue for people to share their stories and experiences in a healthy and open manner. Aww, so nice. I'm glad you like them, guys. Prelude, Spring's Promise. I started playing Final Fantasy XIV around spring of 2022. I made my Warrior of Light in the JP data center of Elemental, as I reside in Southeast Asia. However, I chose to migrate to the Aether data center because I had many American friends that I wanted to explore Eorzea with. Even though there was a 12-hour time zone difference, I worked from home and my job allowed me to do most of my work within a few hours in the evening and have my mornings free to play with my Western friends. My American friends were all easygoing and fun to play with. None of us had played Final Fantasy XIV before. We had met through a gacha game several months prior. We were a gang of gacha game refugees seeking out a new game to play. We were burnt out from begging to RNGesus for a shiny new PNG waifu. We were a total of 6 friends, almost a full party. Our group completed ARR and Heavensward together, never leaving anyone behind in the MSQ. Wow. From Cactpot to Palace of the Dead, we did everything together. Oh my god, this sounds so amazing. I vividly remember how we defeated a level 39 Fate together in Coerthus. Dude, the early days when we used to do random fates in the game. When you're in those old areas and you see those fates, like no one is doing them really. Except for people like random new sprouts in the MSQ. At first, we struggled. We were dying to AoEs and ads were overwhelming the tank. And I was the tank. Oops. But we eventually cleared it. We cheered happily together in the voice chat. It felt amazing working together. And I knew from then on, I wanted to continue playing with these guys. I suggested that we start an FC. I had enough money to get one started. I even had enough to buy a house soon after we established the FC. How do you have so much money when you're a new player? I was poor. We would hang out there and take G poses together after every trial that we completed in the MSQ. I had a real knack for earning gil. All right, there we go. And we would world hop and resell cheap items from other worlds. They were playing the market boards then. I was the main source of gil for my FC. I liked giving back to the group in that way. It made everyone happy. In just a few short weeks, our FC house was transformed into a cute cafe, one that my FC was proud to show off. Chapter 1. My heart is racing. I got a crush on someone. Her name was Reina. She was 3 years younger than me. I was 24 and she was 21. We were both artists and used to share drawings over social media. She was funny and we liked similar anime and music. She was also a very avid gamer, which I found attractive. I was infatuated. I wanted to court her. So I came up with the idea that I would ask her to eternally bond with me. I made it seem like we were just friends and doing it for the wedding chocobo, the 2-seater mount that you get with the wedding package. I reassured her, saying she could break the bond if she ever felt uncomfortable. After a bit of convincing, she agreed to the marriage, and I bought both the rings from the Mog station. We were set to be bonded in a few weeks. I joked to our friends, saying that we were totally a couple of friends getting married. Reina and I traveled to the chapel in the East Shroud to make preparations. We decided to make it the most cursed kind of eternal bond ever. The colors of the decorations would be a hot neon pink, and the music would sound like a funeral. And we would be wearing our gold saucer bunny outfits during the procession. That's hilarious. I asked Reina if we could choose the option to have our Warriors of Light wear the respective wedding outfits for the final cutscene. I wanted some cute G poses to remember the occasion. She agreed to it. On the day of the wedding, all of our FC members and some friends from the server joined us. We even streamed the event in our common Discord friend group so that our non-FF14 friends could tune in. There were about 15 people in the call. It was a small celebration and everyone turned up in their most cursed glam. Reina's best friend, let's call him Roland, even glammed his Vieira in 2B leggings and a Tonberry head, which made everyone laugh. Everyone was just laughing and enjoying themselves, and it felt amazing to be with all my friends and with my crush, Reina. The ceremony was ending and I took screenshots of our characters walking out of the chapel together. As I did this, I had to mute my microphone because I was audibly squealing in pleasure at how cute Reina's character would smile at mine and how mine was smiling back. I have a thing for height differences, and her max height Vieira with my tiny Aura girl made me excited. Big mommy Vieira. Later, whenever I would feel sad, I would replay the videos I took of our eternal bonding ceremony and relive gushing over how cute and amazing of an experience it was. We then took G poses outside the church with our friends. One of the guests was my IRL sister, who was among the few people who knew about my crush on Reina. She congratulated me and said to Reina, "Please take care of my little sibling, sister-in-law." My heart was beating so fast when Reina replied with, "I will." She probably meant it lightly, but I was a willing victim of love and it made me so happy. Weeks passed and we were doing turn-ins for the Ishgardian restoration. I had not confessed my love to Reina yet. We kind of just spent more and more time together. We would do gathering in the diadem, participate in fates, and level up crafters together. I even helped pay for her crafters and gatherers to have bisque gear so it would make her turn-ins easier to do. One day, we were at Diadem in voice chat with just us two. It was evening for me, morning for her, and we were just talking about our days as usual. And then Reina asked me if I had ever been in a relationship. I had, but it didn't work out because my ex-partner got jealous easily and accused me of cheating whenever I played with someone else of the opposite sex. We had been in a long-distance relationship and they were constantly paranoid and demanded updates from me all the time. I told Reina all about it. Reina told me that I deserved someone who valued my freedom and put their full trust in me. I was bubbling with happiness at that point and thanked her for her kind words. Reina told me that she had never dated anyone. She did admit that in her formative years, she was very lonely. And before getting really close with the FC, her only friend was Roland, the guy with the cursed Tonberry 2B leggings glam. I was dangerously testing the waters, but I asked her, "What is your ideal type of partner then?" To which she answered, "Someone mature enough with a healthy sense of humor." I was high on life right then. I was convinced I was the perfect fit for her. But I said, "I'm sure you'll find someone who can make you happy. And please know that I'll be cheering you on from afar." They're so cute. I feel like you could just tell they're both Asians. It's like very stereotypical of me to say that. Anyways. It had been 2 months since we had bonded. Our FC was working on Stormblood MSQ with my 2-seater mount. I could help my FC mates find ether currents in new areas. They called me Choco Taxi. I noticed that Reina would only let me or Roland ride on the back of her Choco, and that made me feel special. It's feeling very anime. Very cutesy. One day, I was eating my lunch in a call with one of my Aussie friends. They teased me for being so shy and encouraged me to confess my love to Reina. I was feeling confident and decided I would make my move right then and there. My buddy wished me good luck, and I left the call to find Reina. It was about 2 p.m. for me, so almost 1 a.m. for Reina at that time. I was half expecting her to be asleep, but I still shot her a message. "Hey Reina, are you awake?" She instantly replied with a, "Yeah, why?" We talked for a bit. I asked how she was feeling and if she wanted to chat for a while. And then I took the plunge. "Hypothetically speaking, how would you like to hear that someone has a big crush on you?" She simply replied with, "I wouldn't know. I don't think anyone interested in me exists." It was at that moment I felt a shiver run down my spine. I have had my fair share of rejections, and I usually take it in stride, but I was terrified that Reina would reject me. Perhaps it was because I was nervous that all we had built up in our friendship might crumble down if I confessed. I closed my phone, took a deep breath, and as I opened it, my phone's lock screen greeted me. It was a screenshot of our warriors of light on the ceremonial chocobo mount, gazing lovingly at each other. Yeah, I'm such a sucker for romance. I thought, if I don't confess my love to her now, maybe I'll never get a chance to have a happy ending like our warriors of light. And so I responded, "You sell yourself too short. I enjoy our talks together, and you're so funny and cool. Don't say I don't exist. I like you. May I have the honor of courting you properly?" Oh my gosh, so formal and cute. I especially remember running into the restroom because my heart was pounding way too fast. I leaned on the sink. I looked in the mirror and tried to calm myself down. And then I felt my phone vibrate, and there was the Discord icon in the notifications bar. Oh damn, there is nothing like the suspense of waiting for a response like this. I flicked open the Discord notification, and she said yes. Reina said she also had feelings for me, but was too scared to act upon it. She had even thought that I was asking her advice because I was going to confess my love to some other girl. I laughed in relief, feeling a great weight off my shoulders, while also reassuring her that for the past months, my eyes were only on her. We talked a bit more before Reina had to rest, with her mostly mentioning she'd like to take things slow and to not broadcast right away that we were dating. I was alright with that, already overjoyed about the fact that Reina was now essentially my girlfriend. Chapter 2: Falling Too Fast. I kept my promise of keeping our budding relationship low profile with the FC. Though surprisingly, Reina wasn't as low key. She was a dancer main and would always dance partner me, the tank, in dungeon runs. Oh, you guys are one of those couples, huh? When you queue up into a dungeon and you see a dancer dance partner, the tank. FC is a guild, Sunglitters. So that would be the guild in like World of Warcraft. But yeah, did you guys know that if you dance partner a DPS, you probably could kill the bosses so much faster and be done with the dungeon so much faster? But Pathra, what about love? What about love? Okay, fine. About the time we all finished Stormblood was when each of us had at least one job at level 90. And so we started to do mount farms in unsynced extreme trials. These were all the jobs we played. I was the warrior and paladin. Reina was a dancer. Roland was a white mage and astro. Hans was a reaper. Violet was a samurai and gunbreaker. And Daniel was a red mage and dragoon. Oh, we've seen some new friends here. Hans, Violet, and Daniel. Our mount farming as an FC went well for the most part. We finished almost all the Stormblood mounts together. But Hans, our designated Reaper, wanted to try out new job classes. Is it Hans? Hans? It's Hans, isn't it? I said Hans. Oh my god, it's Hans. Okay, I'll change it to Hans. It's German. Hans was a Reaper. Okay. But Hans, our designated Reaper, wanted to try out new job classes. He eventually tried out Dancer, and he loved it so much that it became his second main class. This infuriated Reina. Reina would rant to me and Roland in private that she just didn't want to do mount farms if Hans was playing dancer like her. You could have 2 dancers. I offered to teach her how to co-tank with me, but she said she would never be good enough. Dancer was the only class she had to level 90, and she had no intention of swapping. Oh, well, it's just a farm party. It shouldn't matter. Roland tried to keep the peace, telling Hans to stay off dancer class when we were mount farming. Hans was confused. Why should he do that? I didn't want him to know that it was Reina we were trying to please. So I said it was better for our team composition to have more melee DPS because they would push out more damage than 2 dancers. So Hans agreed and only played dancer if Reina wasn't online. I felt bad about it. It was unfair and scummy that Hans was forced to not play a job that he enjoyed, but I told myself that I was keeping the peace in our farming. Keeping the peace. And Hans didn't seem too bothered with it. Hans had his own problems. He was infatuated with Violet, but Violet was a lesbian. I tried to tell him to forget her, but Hans did not heed my advice. He dedicated all his time to Violet, showering her with lavish in-game gifts. He told Violet that she could come live with him IRL if she ever wanted to move out of her home. Any normal girl would think this was amazing and dreamy for a guy to do so much for them, but Violet wasn't having any of it. She thought it was weird. Yeah, I was gonna say, like, hold up a second. This is a bit too fast. It's weird when the guy is like super all in. You're like, come live with me. I can give you everything. I'd be like, hold your horses, man. What are you on about? So OP is clearly a guy in this situation. He doesn't know how women think. That is weird. And Violet thinks so too. Hans also had problems with Roland. Roland was a psychology major and liked to act as an armchair psychologist for his friends. He loved to get nosy in everyone's business. Roland was also prejudiced against anyone who wasn't a white American. Huh? Even though he himself was half Filipino. Anyway, he was a jerk to Hans, who was German. Roland would make fun of Hans's German accent behind his back. Roland was protective of Violet and told Hans to back off and leave her alone. I guess Hans was fed up with Roland and realized it was hopeless with Violet. Oh man, so Hans couldn't get in with... I mean, I don't even know if Hans even had a chance with Violet anyways, but now Hans is thinking like, yeah, I probably have 0 chance if Roland is being her bodyguard. I guess Hans was fed up with Roland and realized it was hopeless with Violet because he told us that he was going to take a break and unsubscribe from the game for a while. But the minute that Hans's subscription expired, Roland kicked Hans from the FC and all our discords. I had given him all the permission to do that and I regretted it. I confronted Roland. Oh my god. Why did you do that? I demanded. Roland told me that it was his way of protecting Violet. Well, yeah, it's hard for OP to say why did you do that because OP did agree with the actions earlier, but I guess now he's like, why did you want to do that? But yeah, can't really like backpedal now, right? It's already been done. I said, you should have at least warned Hans. Roland just scoffed at me. Fine, you're the FC leader. Go do that. Go talk to Hans if you want. But just so you know, Reina won't like that. Roland and Reina were close friends, and damn, that made me scared. I didn't care what Roland thought, but I sure cared about what Reina thought. But then Hans messaged me asking me why he was removed from all the discords. I explained that Roland had done it to distance him from Violet. Hans was angry. I had never seen him in such a rage. He started cussing Roland out in DMs. Hans said that he hated Roland's nosiness. He hated how he has a pseudo-psychologist who butted into people's business uninvited. He hated how Roland acted like an elitist just because he was the FC's token healer. Dude, I also don't like it when people like, you know, when people try to be like psychologists and they try to like diagnose their friends. I feel like you should never assume someone's like issues ever. I feel like I've encountered some of those people lately, you know? They're around. Han's sudden anger really affected Roland. He was shocked and hurt by Hans's insults. Reina told me that Roland cried for an hour. What? Because of Hans scolding Roland? Roland cried? She was stressed that her best friend was breaking down in front of her. She asked me if I had scolded Hans. I told her that I wasn't planning on standing up for Roland. This was between Roland and Hans. But Reina was livid. She was furious that I wanted to remain neutral. She demanded that I prioritize her and her best friend Roland's feelings over Hans. But Hans was my closest friend in the FC. Then she threatened me with an ultimatum. If you don't get angry at Hans, things are gonna get nasty between us. Oh no, this is getting so sad and messy. No, why is this happening? Right? Like, why? Why does it have to be this way? That terrified me, and so I acted stupidly. I went to Hans and berated him for making Violet uncomfortable. I told him I was disappointed in him for not leaving her alone, and I ignored all his responses. Running to show Reina that I told Hans off, she was pleased and let me off the hook for that night. For that night. I feel like more is coming by that sentence. I was Reina's simp and doing her bidding even though it violated my personal morals. Oh boy. Oh boy. No. Hey, at least OP knows. They're like, yeah, I fucked up. Chapter 3, Eyes Wet with Tears. After the Hans incident, things between me and Reina went swimmingly. We had our 4-month anniversary. We played party games to celebrate. Jackbox and Gartic Phone. Reina had been playing Final Fantasy XIV less and less, but we were spending time together in other games like Overwatch, It Takes Two, and Risk of Rain. One day, Reina told me she was going to unsubscribe from Final Fantasy XIV for a while. I was surprised, but I understood. She was a college student and had limited money. She didn't want me to pay her sub because she would feel forced to play. I assured her that we could still play many games together or just draw together like we always did. After a hectic workday, I checked Discord. I saw that Roland and Reina had been in there having a discussion about Eden Shiva, which is a fight in Final Fantasy XIV. I am one of the only remaining fans of Iceheart. I loved her characterization in Heavensward, and I wished Final Fantasy XIV had given her more screen time. They were talking about Iceheart, and I started to read. Roland was saying how useless Iceheart was in Heavensward. He said that she did nothing. He said that the only redeeming thing was that she had banger music. Reina was just agreeing with him. Whatever Roland said, she always went along with it. Chat's like, hey, don't be mean to Iceheart. I jumped into the conversation and said, hey, I know you like to dunk on Iceheart, but can you not do it in front of me? Y'all know she's my favorite character. Roland went on the defensive, saying that it was just him having some fun and that I shouldn't be so serious. I told him that this wasn't the first time he made fun of my favorite character, and I had let those other times slide. Reina came to Roland's defense, asking why I seemed so angry. I clarified that I wasn't angry, just annoyed that Iceheart always gets that treatment just because the writers didn't do much with her character. Much more back and forth happened until I just said I was busy and had to go, as I still had some extra work to do for my daytime job. That was a mistake, as a few hours later, I received a DM from Reina. She said she had been sobbing for the past hour, wondering what had gotten into me to be so aggressive and angry. What the hell is... like, this shouldn't be as big as it is. I was honestly confused. I thought I had been civil with my request for Roland to chill out on being so hateful towards one of my favorite characters. She accused me of being insensitive and mean towards her and Roland. I was stunned. but I didn't want to argue any further. I apologized profusely to her with a, "I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to sound hurtful. I will do what I can to make things right." Reina didn't seem very receptive to my response. She answered, "You should have been more sensitive. Me and Roland have final exams this week, and that conversation was our way to relax, and you ruined it." I begged for her forgiveness again, promising to give her some distance for tonight if she needed it. Reina still seemed unhappy, but logged off for the night. Chat saying, "Poor simp." Oh my god, these peeps are crazy. They were so cute earlier, but now they're just crazy. They're very young. We were told at the start 23 and 21, something like that. I continued to work and planned to make her an apology drawing for making her cry. But then I received a DM from Roland. Reina's anger was a bonfire, but Roland's was an unquenchable inferno. You hope there's no stopping that fire. He lashed out at me brutally. "You are just another hot-tempered Filipino, unable to contain your anger." Then he started to act like the psychologist. Oh, okay. So Opie and Roland are both Filipinos. Roland says here, "You are just another hot-tempered Filipino, unable to contain your anger." Then he started to act like the psychologist, advising me how to control my short fuse. He said, even though I was older than him and Reina, I acted like a child. I was too sensitive over a fictional character. I was addicted and hopelessly obsessed with the game. He said that I wasn't his real friend because I didn't act right away to come to his aid when he was being cooked alive by Hans's fury. I was hurt. I went numb. I apologized for sounding mean and aggressive and asked if the three of us could have a civil conversation to clear the air. How is Opie taking this? He keeps apologizing. To be fair, there are people who do that. They're like, "Oh, I'm sorry. They just keep saying they're sorry, but like, it doesn't fix anything. It's like you keep making them get away with things that they shouldn't be getting away with. Opie needs to grow a spine, chat says. Okay. Roland said, "I don't see the need for that. If you want to speak to me, you can do it now." But I was still working and I couldn't get into a call. So Roland said, "Whatever," and that we would talk the next day, and logged off. I clocked out from work and face planted in bed, defeated. I was feeling utterly beat down. I had to stay strong. I confided in my Australian friends who I hang out with when my American friends are asleep. They rallied to my side with comforting words and I felt a bit better. I contemplated on how I should talk to Reina. Roland had made unkind remarks to me, many of which were racist. Maybe she could talk some sense into Roland. I knew she was asleep, but I still sent her a DM telling her how upset that I was feeling about what Roland said about me. I hoped that maybe she and I could talk a bit privately before our group meeting. After I composed the message, exhaustion got the better of me and I fell asleep. I woke up to see Reina had replied already. My heart sank. She didn't want to talk to me privately. She said I would only take out my anger out on her. She said that Roland had every right to be angry with me and that I should apologize later in the call. I have been comforted by my Australian friends the night before, but I felt a dam burst inside me and started crying. It was almost Christmas and I had the day off. I laid in bed for an hour, sobbing my eyes out. I felt alone. I was beaten down by the girl who I thought might have my back. I knew the group call was coming up and I had to push my hurt feelings aside because I had to be composed by the time Roland invited me for that group chat. This is so awkward because like Reina and Roland are super, super close and it's like they're just bullying OP at this point. And like Reina is the one that's actually in a relationship with OP. You gotta get out of there, OP. You gotta get out. Like maybe Reina should just get with Roland. I'm just kidding. They're probably like really, really close, but it's why is it affecting OP this much? It's crazy. Surprisingly, I had calmed down substantially by the time all three of us were settled in the call. Roland actually apologized first, saying that he had let his emotions get the better of him. He said that he would try to be better and not let anger cloud his judgment. I was still unhappy with the racist remark about me being Filipino and asked why he was so hateful towards them when Roland himself was half Filipino. He explained it's because my rebuking yesterday reminded him of his toxic mother, who was the Filipino in his family. I simply said, well, don't lump me in with her. I'm my own self, and my race doesn't dictate my personality. Reina was quiet through this all, but eventually asked if I had something else to say. I got this as a cue to apologize, and so I did. As much as I felt like I've said enough sorries, I decided it was for the best that we just mutually apologize and let these arguments be water under the bridge. Can you believe this all started from a conversation about Ice Heart? Oh, and the Hans incident. Like, why is this so crazy? However, I had a request. This was for me and Roland to have some distance for now. I said I was deeply hurt with what he sent me. And even if he didn't mean it, it still stung hard. I wasn't ready to see him as a friend and wanted to have my time away from him until I could trust him. Roland was mature about it and said he was alright with that. Reina was silent again and didn't say anything even when we ended the call. I thought this was the lowest I could ever feel that year. It was only a few days before New Year's Eve. Chapter 4. Raw Fury in Flight. A week passed. Roland respected my request and kept his distance. But through the week, Reina kept trying to convince me to befriend him again. But the pain was still fresh and I needed time to heal, and I hoped she would understand. I know it must have pained her to see her best friend and partner not getting along, but I wanted to fully recover before accepting Roland back in my life. I did my best to make sure Reina wasn't lonely, and every night we played any game that she wanted. One night, Reina and I were playing Overwatch 2 together while chatting. I noticed she was constantly on edge. The smallest things would irritate her. Overwatch 2 did not make her mood any better. After a lost match, she fumed. I miss playing with our friends. At least that's more fun than this. Her voice was bitter. I wished I could hug her. I said, we could invite them next time, okay? Reina became increasingly more upset and replied, but you don't even want to hang out with Roland anymore. I always have to hang out with the two most important people in my life separately. Why can't you fix that beef you have with him? The entire week was just her harping on me to get back together with Roland. It was like a matchmaking friend who tries to get two incompatible people to kiss or something. I asked her to stop wishing for the impossible. As things stood, I had no intention of befriending Roland for at least a month. I know it hurt her, but I was hurt too. She brought up Roland every waking hour. Roland, Roland, Roland. This is bad. This is bad. Reina wants to hang out with Roland, not her boyfriend. Yeah. And always talking about Roland when they do hang out one-on-one. She said she was going to sleep. I asked if we could talk again when she awoke, and she said yes. Throughout the day, I sought advice from both my IRL friends and online friends. I laid the facts to them, and the resounding conclusion everyone had was, I was not Reina's priority. Some said she prioritized Roland, while others said she was being selfish and dismissive of my hurt feelings. And strangely, my mind was also made up. I could no longer continue dating someone who couldn't empathize with me. The next day, I called her up, dropped the bomb, and said I wanted to break up with her. I was honest with how I felt, that I needed proper time and care to heal, and yet she rubbed salt on that wound by bringing Roland in and out like some lurking shadow. But to balance it out, I also understood her hurt. She had to hang out separately with her best friend and partner. I knew it was putting a strain on her mental health too, and so I said it was best we part ways. Reina was stunned. She began crying and pleading. She said she loved me, but those words only stabbed at my heart. Her actions spoke otherwise. But I didn't try to tell her that. I said I still loved her, but that now I would do it from afar, and I would still cheer her on like I promised if she found someone deserving of her love. Reina's final words to me were bitter and choked with tears. She said I was heartless. She said I was so cold and calm while breaking up with her. She said I was unable to cry or feel remorse, but that I had made her cry so much. Before I could respond, she hung up on me and blocked me on all her social media accounts. It was clear she did not wish to talk to me anymore. I got rid of my Eternal Bond ring and decided to transfer my main character to a JP server while leaving my NA alt character in the FC so I could still hop in and help people. So I passed the leadership of the FC to my NA alt and moved to the JP server. I got a message from Daniel, who was one of our original FC members. He and I talked about our lives, and he asked me if it was true that Reina and I had broken up. I said yes, and he told me that he hadn't seen her post much on social media or Discord, and he assumed she was just taking a break. He asked me if I was permanently staying in the JP server. I said I would still use my alt in NA from time to time. I'd be definitely spending more time in JP as I had Australian and Japanese friends to play together with. I would be less active in NA, but just be a call away if he or Violet would need an extra head for mount farms or content that required more people. Daniel said he'd be happy to run dungeons with me if given the time. Daniel and I chatted back and forth for a few days. He would report to me how Reina was doing, and we would talk about our progression in Final Fantasy XIV. Then Daniel asked me if he could be made FC leader of the NAFC. He reasoned that it would be best to have an active person handling the FC. He pointed out that I was still healing and bad memories might get dredged up if I ran into Reina or Roland. I gave it some thought and concluded that Daniel was right. He seemed like a neutral party between me and Reina, and I trusted him to take care of the FC. Yeah, oh fuck, there's more drama. It's not just the relationship. Here we go. I logged into my NA alt and handed the leadership to Daniel's character. The next thing I saw was a notice that my personal FC room had been demolished. My FC tag on my character had disappeared. Daniel had kicked me from the FC. I felt like I had been punched. I demanded an explanation from Daniel. I was only given a curt response of, "Please understand that this is for your own good. Reina has already gotten over you and does not wish to see you again." I was stun-locked by that, trembling at how fast I had been betrayed. I had considered Daniel a friend and didn't realize he was such a convincing actor. He gained my trust and broke it in a matter of minutes. These emotions I felt were a mix of disappointment, frustration, and heartbreak. I was practically a zombie with how numb I was feeling. I only really sobered up when it was evening. There was only one thing I sought now. Vengeance. Oh my... Yo, this is a theme today. Vengeance. But yeah, dude, I feel for this OP. Okay, I'm on OP's side for this vengeance, okay? This is the only one that I agree with. In his hurry to try protect Reina from me, Daniel had not thought to kick my own IRL sister from the FC, and apparently did not suspect that I still had friends there. I called my friends and my sister. All three of them were enraged at how I was treated by Daniel and indirectly by Reina. They knew Roland had to be involved too. But I reassured them that I had a plan to get my revenge and I needed their help. I had also given admin roles to my sister's character in the FC, and our plan was for the three of them to destroy the FC house, clean out all the submarines, clear the entire FC chest and all the gil. I had contributed to 90% of the gil expenditures to set the house up. So essentially, I felt I had justification. I also reassured them that the TOS would not come back to bite at them. I already researched extensively that people who have stolen millions of gils in FC chests had gone unpunished since they were granted the roles from the FC lead, which was me at the time. Damn, he did his research also. Like, yeah, you guys won't get in trouble. You won't get banned. You can fuck that house up. it was Daniel's own fault he hadn't thought to change any of that since he was so focused on just punishing me. And so I had 3 spies log back into the game when everyone else was offline. Daniel had not thought to kick my friends or even my own sister from the FC, and so our plan went off without a hitch. My friends took every piece of furniture in the FC house, while my sister took care of exchanging every FC point we had for magic brooms and cerulean tanks. Oh my god. They're hustling. You can imagine that the next day, the FC was not happy to see a destroyed house, or rather, a completely bare one. Daniel surely tried to contact me, but I had blocked him on Steam and Discord. He tried to get a common friend of ours to message me, but I told them it would be a cold day in hell before I ever talked to Daniel again. Do you think I went overboard? I felt sorry for hurting my ex-friends like that, but karma can be a bitch. I wanted to bite them hard after they thought they had seen the last of me. Damn. Oh my god. Like, Daniel was obviously doing this for Roland and Reina, and he tricked OP 100%. He was trying to be very friendly, like, oh, how are you doing over there in JP server? You still gonna hang out with us? Oh, well, as long as you still play with us. And he like tried to be buddy, and then he was like, oh, by the way, it would be really cool if you just made me FC leader. Yeah, he totally tricked OP. I would feel so mad also that Daniel did that and lied to me just to kick you out of the FC if you did so much for that FC. Because I remember at the beginning, I was like, how is OP so rich? And he was like saying how he played the market boards and always helped his friends out with money and bought them things and bought the house. That was all said at the start of the story. Okay, epilogue. No more goodbyes. I am now playing Final Fantasy XIV in the Japanese data center. I finished Endwalker in 2 weeks, a surprisingly quick feat, as I usually take months before when I had to wait for my former FC. I've also joined a new FC, which is run by a lovely Japanese couple who are amazing to hang out with. I also dipped my toes into Savage Raiding, and currently I am a Penta legend with an amazing network of friends from the JP server whom I play regularly with. I shared this drama story with my JP friends, and I got nicknamed the Homewrecker. Ah, now we all get the title. We were thinking the other Homewrecker, okay? That's a twist. It was the FC Homewrecker. Because of how I destroyed my old FC house, and I own it with a smile. As a bonus, me and Hans reconnected. I started with an apology, but he said he forgave me already, as he knew I was operating under Reina's whims. Oh my god. The German guy was like, nah, it's cool. I get it. You were totally whipped. But I get it, brother. Hans was like, I probably would have been too for a while. He said he knew what it felt like to simp hard for someone, only to be used by them. I believe he was talking about Violet. But either way, we rekindled our friendship. And as for Reina, I last heard she was dating Roland for a while, but it didn't work out. Dude, that was so obvious. They wanted each other. Okay, well, it didn't work out. Regardless, if they were happy together, then true to my word, I'll happily cheer them on. But from afar, or probably from several data centers afar, and thankfully from another continent. The end. P.S. I used select lyrics of Eden Shiva's song to mark each chapter in the story. Oh, that's what it was. If there's one thing we can all agree to, it's that Return to Oblivion slaps hard. Okay, so that's... I was wondering about the chapter names. Did you guys know? I was more thinking this isn't... Yeah, we were not focused on the chapter titles at all because we were just thinking the story's wild. I think it was written really well. It was a good story. Yeah, I agree with that. It was a good journey. Very relatable to many people, I think. Tackles a lot of issues. Opie and Hans seem like they learned a lesson. Don't be simps. Well, Opie definitely got pushed around way too much. Anyone want to date so we can make content for a new video? No, you guys remember what Mr. Happy said? This is not a dating game. I think Reina, Roland, and Daniel are more salty they didn't get a free house and Mountain of Gil. It's like when people have an FC house, that's kind of like the home base for the group. So they lost their home base, but they still got their little club. OP breaking it up was a good call. If it ain't his anymore, then, you know, they can't just steal what he had. If you write like this, please submit stories. Let me know in the comments below what you thought about this Final Fantasy XIV drama story. Remember, these are real people behind the stories and they're human and can make mistakes. They'll also be reading the comment section, so please try to have constructive criticism. There are always nicer ways to say something versus saying it meanly to help someone learn and grow. If you have any of your own drama stories that you'd like me to share and read out anonymously, feel free to reach out to my Discord, discord.gg/Pathra.